won't lie to you. This mission will be dangerous.
Would you say we'd be venturing into a zone of danger?
JC asks, I'm assuming this is not Mr. Christos himself. This is not Jesus asking the question. Jimmy Kimmel? No, that's a K. I know a lot of JCs, but I can't recall them right now. Okay, fine. Here's your question, JC. As writers, we aim to force people to think about the world around them just a little bit more. That's what we were saying to AH up above, right? That's our job. So the question continues, just a little bit deeper. But what does writing do to you? What does being a writer force you to think more about? And, two-part question. I once had a friend describe writers and musicians and artists as the people capable of translating the language of the spirit. Do you agree? And if this so, what does that mean to you? How do you take, interpret, and translate such knowledge? Wow, that's a layered question. That's a storytelling lecture. That's a full class, full hour-and-a-half class right there. So I'm going to condense this right down. I apologize because you asked too, and we have our rules. What does writing do to me? Good writing forces me to turn my brain off. It forces me out of a state of control and being ego-driven and worrying about the future or worrying about the past. It terrifies me, and sometimes I don't want to let go, which is why there'll be sometimes days on end where I don't write. But when I do, it is about surrender. That's what it does for me. I have to be in the moment when that pen comes to the paper, or when I've opened up Word or some other writing program and I'm laying in bed or sitting in a perfect high back chair and I start to type. You get into that zone, you get into a flow state. And in that flow state, you're surrendering to something greater than yourself. I joked earlier about dialing in on the radio band to WGOD, and that's what it feels like. So it's akin to meditation. It reminds you how small you are, but also how vast you are. What you're plugged into is so incredibly vast, and you're a part of it. You're a cell in this infinite body. So writing forces me to think about being alive, about existing, about what's really important, about legacy and what does legacy really matter, about who Brooke Burgess is and what's going to happen when I'm not Brooke Burgess anymore. Because that comes up for me a lot, especially now in midlife. I keep saying that, but it's true. I think, okay, I'm going to be Brooke Burgess, quote unquote, for a frighteningly short period of time. But I'm going to be something else for an infinitely longer period of time. What does that mean? What do I want from this short time here? Do I really need to cling to it and try to acquire things or leave some sort of legacy with my work? Because let's be true here, let's be real. Thinking about legacy for your work on a planet like this, in the solar system, in a galaxy, in this ever-expanding, spinning, multi-dimensional experience called life, is really akin to writing your name in the sand with your baby finger and the tide, the very high tide, like Newfoundland-level Labrador tides are rolling in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The odds of me being a Shakespeare, and even then, who knows if Shakespeare will be remembered in 1,000 years. I hope so. I hope so. I have fears about, 50 Shades of Grey being remembered instead. But how fucked up and repressed we are as Westerners. But yeah, being a writer makes me think more about time. It makes me think more about my connection to things and where I'm disconnected from things. It makes me think more about identity, which is also why I'm a huge fan of Philip K. Dick, the sci-fi side of things, because almost all of his stuff had this kind of spiritual dimension. All his sci-fi stuff had this psychological and psycho-spiritual dimension about identity, and is it fluid? And what if you could look at yourself and reality around you through a slightly different lens? What if something forced you to? What if you were askew? I think writing does that for me because I'm constantly looking through my character's lenses, or a version of myself with the volume turned up or certain aspects tapered. So that's what it does to me. And your part about you had a friend describe writers, musicians, and artists as the people capable of translating the language of spirit. That ties into what I just asked, or what you just asked, what I just answered. That is what you're doing. The language of spirit is you channeling. Any writer worth their salt who can pull their head out of their fucking ass will say, I didn't write it. I just channeled it. I heard it. I transcribed it. You feel it working through you. I can't prove that. I can't prove it's like an Elizabeth Gilbert, is it? Like, who's the Eat, Pray, Love woman? I forget her name, but she did an amazing TED Talk. You should look that up. Okay, look that up, where she speaks about this phenomenon, speaks about the idea of where do our stories come from? Where does inspiration come from? Is it like a poem that rushes through you like a train and you try to catch its tail? That was a great quote from a story, an anecdote she told about a poet. And how we never used to take full, like, back in ancient Greece or ancient Rome, we didn't take credit for the things we had created. We had these mystical forces, these creatures, these daemons there. And if you paid attention to your daemon, your inspiration, your creative spirit that was in your home or in your workspace, you do work. And if the work was bad, you could blame your daemon. And if the work was great, you could be like, well, I was blessed today to hear it properly and be delivered this beautiful thing to create. You weren't a genius. You experienced moments of genius or inspiration. So I think that translating the language of the spirit as a writer, I think any artist does that. I think painters do it visually. I think musicians definitely do it, because we're living in a construct, in this big, simulated or not existence of this reality of 3 dimensions traveling in a vector of time, but actually 10 dimensions with gravity and everything else bleeding up and down between them all. We're living in this thing, and it's all based on vibration. So music is absolutely translating the language of spirit. I think dance in its raw form translates the language of spirit. But yes, writers, we do have a special relationship, because it's constantly about ideas, not just moments, but ideas, continuities, characters being born and growing and dying. It's hard not to feel like a god, but you're not the one doing it. That's the lesson. And that's what it means to me. And if I receive this knowledge, because you ask at the end, how do you take, interpret, and translate such knowledge? Well, I take it where I can get it. I hear it. When it feels right, it resonates not just in my head, like, ooh, that's clever. It used to do that. But now I get a, ooh, that's interesting and clever. Plus, in my heart, I feel like a swelling, or my chest gets tight. If it makes me anxious, there's something there I need to pay attention to. I'm feeling something emotional. And my gut won't be tense. My gut will kind of expand a bit and relax a bit, but also get a chill. And that chill will go down to my balls and up my spine to my brains, and my hair will stand on end, and I'll be like, this is it. I found it. Surrender to it. Here it comes. It's going to roll over you like a Mack truck. And that's how I take it. And then I interpret it based upon the feeling it leaves me with. What's it trying to make me say? How is this connected to my experience as a person? Because that's the only thing that can differentiate you anymore when you're creating something. It's not about the type of paint you use. It's not about the words you necessarily put together. It's not about your technique or your style or how much money you spend to promote, or, hey, it's an original story. No, it's not, because every story's been told. We know that already. What makes something special or original is that it's coming through you. And as I said at the top of this show, if reality is this infinitely faceted gem, light can travel through it and make it sparkle, but that also makes it an infinitely faceted prism. And the facet that is you is shining in a very particular and individual way. The light coming through the gem of existence is shining in the bandwidth of you. So any story you tell about your life experience will be unique and powerful and special if you're being honest. If you're being honest, and if you're willing to be vulnerable and stare into the mirror, the gaping maw of that shit, and hold it up to the world, maybe we can all learn something from you. That's the whole point of wanting to tell the story. Artists tell their stories to not just to serve God, of course not. They tell their stories to understand themselves better. That's why I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm selfish.
You are the only mystery worth solving.
I can blow.
Oh, you ready to blow?
Yeah, I'm ready to blow.
Well, I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker.
Afternoon Delight. Ha, nice name. Afternoon Delight asks, Brooke, why animals over humans? I get this has to be a friend, because for people who know me, they know that I will always pick animals over humans, especially cats. I love cats. I love animals. I love being here in Asia. Well, not always, because sometimes you see them abused. But in southern Thailand, the Buddhist monks love cats and think of them as enlightened masters and kind of revere them as something special. I'm on a Muslim island, and they also totally respect cats as well. So that's a cool thing. But animals over humans, it's easy. Hemingway said it. I think Mark Twain said it. I think a ton of great writers and thinkers and philosophers and poets have said it. Animals don't lie. People do. But animals don't. You know when an animal's angry. You know when it's pleased. You know when it's content. You know when it's frightened. You can almost feel it when it's sad. You can feel it when it's loving or hopeful. You can feel it when it's lonely. It's not going to fake these feelings. There maybe are some instances of animals perhaps trying to trap prey by behaving in a certain way. And crows, we all know how smart they are and that they're motherfuckers and they plan shit. They have these elaborate schemes to fuck with each other. Or there's that video on YouTube where you see a crow inciting a fight between two cats on different roofs of two different houses. So maybe that's a lie. But no, the truth is that animals are honest. And that's why we'll always pick animals over human beings.
Harry, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Every day, once a day, give yourself a present. Don't plan it. Don't wait for it. Just let it happen. It could be a new shirt at the men's store, a cat nap in your office chair, or 2 cups of good, hot, black coffee.